Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. This evening, let's explore the fourth of 28 passages of the meditation classic, Great Garuda and Flight, written by the great Buddhist reformer, Vajra. As this state of pristine awareness is unchanging and free of conditions, there is nothing to be attached to. Likewise, as there is no object to be grasped, there is no place for the grasping mind. Those who contemplate causes to reach direct experience will never attain equality if they are happily attached to contemplation. I think it would be best to remind y'all that an argument could be made that this collection of 28 verses would be read before each session of meditation, but not in entirety. Someone would read one passage and then meditate. That would explain why so many of the same themes are repeating over and over and over again. The author of the text was no stranger to what we now describe as Sturgeon's Law. I'm going to shift gears now and access a set of visual aids. Both this teaching text and the visual aids are available for free download. Excuse me. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. That's while there will always be a remnant of people upon the path of wisdom, the path that helps us to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. 90% of folks are going to traverse the path of foolishness, the path that not only causes us to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, but which lauds these qualities. Perhaps this is why the author of this evening's teaching text kept reminding us of the following principles. Now, tonight's lesson is predicated upon a rudimentary understanding of emptiness. So I'm going to share that with you. There's a lot of confusion on the subject, and I feel that that confusion is best dispelled when viewed through the metaphoric lens of neuroscience. The foolish will tell us to indulge our controlling tendencies, to actively focus, and to actively analyze. Sadly, when we do this, when we experiment with this strategy, it always gives us the same results. First, it exhausts the front of our brain. Then it induces us to present with symptoms of depression. And third, it triggers our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. Or put another way, the seat of cowardice, cruelty, and competition. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider the spinal cord. Its fancy name is our autonomic nervous system. But did you know that some refer to it as the seat of our Buddha nature. Why would they say that? Check this out. Every time we inhale, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which is known as the sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which, by the way, is the opposite of being rigid and controlling, but to notice mind's antics of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. What are we to do with that which we notice? Well, every time we exhale, we are similarly wired to automatically access the end bits of that same spinal cord. End bits like bookends on a shelf not entirely full. These extremes are known as the parasympathetic nervous system. They help us, or it helps us, to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. It's the difference between saying, I feel anger, and instead saying, I'm angry. Now that could sound like picayune, but there's a big difference between experiencing a symptom and defining ourselves by a mood. After all moods come and go. And, I live in Southern California. And some people describe the trope as, welcome to sunny Southern California. But we have the full spectrum of weather. We have warm days and cold days. We have dry days and wet days. We have days when the wind blows and days it doesn't. We have days when there is snow in the mountains and days when there's fire on the mountains. And so to define a region, no less a person, by something which is evanescent and fleeting is folly, is it not? All complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, as earthling life forms or distant ancestors perceived their environment. And in time they begin recalling perceptions and anticipating perceptions, and thus began the vestiges, the inklings of thinking. Just as we drape garments on a hanger and place them in a closet, similarly, the capacity to perceive and recall and imagine became the armature upon which the wardrobe of sentience evolved. Therefore, it should come as little surprise that in every human culture, people use figures of speech. Let's explore some contemplative figures of speech. As we relax into our exhalation, that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Now, a simile is only as effective as it is relatable, so we have to ask the question, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? Well, how about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand? So let's play with this now. As silently and mentally we recite the verb watch during our inhalation, we might notice birth. Yet as we silently and mentally recite the verb rest during our exhalation, and as we relax, our experience of birth could feel more like birthlessness. Just as the pendulum of a grandfather clock swings back and forth, and we breathe in and out, we notice and relax. And as we relax into our exhalation, the death we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can now feel deathless. And the change we experience could now feel, at least fleetingly, changeless. And so these idea of birthlessness and deathlessness and changelessness and selflessness, they're just figures of speech to understand that whatever was super real to us a moment ago will feel less so the next moment. Is that change permanent? No changes are permanent. But this gives us wiggle room to be authentic, yet free from the tyranny of that authenticity. Both are crucial. Wrong button. Let us return to this evening's teaching text. I'm using software that was designed for a multi-screen setup, but I'm a disabled fellow who contents himself with a laptop. So this is a trifle ungainly. As this state of pristine awareness is unchanging and free of conditions, there's nothing to be attached to. So, as we breathe in, we might notice change. As we relax into our exhalation, that same change could seem unchanging or changeless. And what I'm doing by changing the font and is letting you know that I've made an adaptation. Similarly, as we breathe in, we can notice interdependence, how we are affected by circumstance, by the circumstantial and the physical and the interpersonal and the mental. And yet, as we relax into our exhalation, those same influences, we might feel like we are free of their tyranny. As we breathe in, we might notice things that we are very, very impassioned about. And yet fleetingly, as we exhale, those things we feel impassioned about could fleetingly feel non-graspable. You might call this a pattern interrupt, though fleeting it might be. Likewise, as there is no object to be grasped, there is no place for the grasping mind. So let's pretend we're hungry and we want an apple. Red, firm, and juicy and delicious. I'm salivating just describing it. As we breathe in, we could notice the apple. As we breathe out and relax, the apple could feel less real. As we breathe in, we might notice our desire for the apple. And as we breathe out, that desire could feel less real. As we breathe in, we might notice the mind. That experiences not only the perception of the apple, but the desire for the apple. And as we breathe out fleetingly, even that mind itself could feel less graspable. Some scholarly folk might describe this as the three circles of desire. The object of desire, the act or the experience of the desire, and the mechanism which experiences desire. And all three can be noticed and can be released. Now, our job is not to release things permanently because there is no permanence. Our job is to go along for the ride, noticing and relaxing and having a gay old time, just like on the Flintstones. Those who contemplate causes to reach a direct experience will never attain equality if they happily attach to contemplation. Two things to notice right now. As we mentioned a few moments ago, the path. So within each brain is the path of foolishness and the path of wisdom. Within each brain is the mechanisms of competition, which can create fleeting pleasures, and the mechanisms of cooperations, which can create an experience of fulfillment. Upon the path of competition, we indulge our controlling tendencies and try to control our circumstances and their outcomes. And so we can get very, very, very bound up in karma and klesha and causes and effects and try to be very, very precise, like a chemist in his laboratory, but we're not. A laboratory is a controlled environment. Reality is most certainly not controlled. It's chaotic as hell, isn't it? Those who traverse the path of being preoccupied with causes and results and fear of punishment and hope for reward have lost the path of love and peace. Similarly, when we become attached to concentration and contemplation, it does not breed peace. It breeds anxiety and crankiness. Our job is simple. Whether we want to or not, we gotta breathe. And as we breathe in, our body has certain mechanisms. And as we breathe out, our body has other mechanisms. We can squander our lives living in active competition against those systems. Or we can passively cooperate with them. The great irony is that this path of passive cooperation with our mindful sympathetic nervous system and our meditative or relaxing parasympathetic nervous system. This is the quick path of peace and love and the effortless effort that helps us to use all our faculties in the most sustainable manner. This is the path wherein we can master the Buddha's teachings in as little as a week. Having completed our opening lesson, we can now shift gears. It is Yoda Monday evening. Let us meditate like a Jedi after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus so that I could spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. So if I seem a little weird, that's because I've got the tism. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Now let's see what's going on here. Yes, for the remainder of this evening's live stream, we're going to practice mindfulness and meditation. Every 15 minutes or so, if you're prone to arthritis like myself, you may wish to adjust your legs. There will always be elitists who will wag their finger at you for respecting your body's limitations. Those elitists deserve our pity. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. However, once I start closing class, I'm oblivious to any new questions, so ask while the asking is good. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.